So y'all gonna be asking questions.
Pac.
All right, everybody. I want to say thank you for those that were waiting patiently. We had a couple technical difficulties, and of course, always with me, there's always something, right? So, want to welcome everybody to my podcast. Everybody know me as Theo. We will be doing a conversation piece. We'll be changing the name right now. I've got Brother Crosby in, or if you want to be called Antoine, it's up to you, my brother. Whichever way you want to be directed.
Momo is good. Momo is good.
Momo. Okay, we'll go with Momo. So here's the thing. We had a small conversation a couple of days ago, and I wanted to address some things and maybe bring some things to light to where we're at, right? And of course, the title is where we're at in the Black community. Where we moving forward in the community as a whole. And I think it's something that it needs to be talked about. And I know you and myself, we all kind of want to get some things off our chest, right? Moving forward with the Black community and where we're looking at. So I want to start off with this.
Right.
Around 1890 to 1990, just those years, right?
Okay.
roughly 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've looked at the numbers, and as they say, the numbers don't lie statistically. And I looked at Black home ownership, Black employment, and Black household medium income. And the percentage breaks down to where it's just about the same. And if those aren't sure, they can always go look up Dr. George C. Foster, to get a little more clarification on that, because he was one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk about this and do this. So what I've learned is throughout that 100 years, now on a percentage base, we went from number two in this country. There was always Black and white, and with the household median income, even back in the 1890, we owned homes, and even up to now. Well, the problem is it's 2024. In between all the different ethnic groups, we're last. So when you think about a situation, the Indian household is roughly 105,000, and I could be off by $1,000 here and there. The Asian community is under them. Next, we have our white Americans. Then we have the Hispanic community. That's number four. Number five, we have the Black community. So somewhere along that line, we have to figure out what caused this drop, right? How did we go from being second place to now we're last place? Now, there's a lot of contributing factors, and I'm going to run on for a little bit like I run on sentence. Then I'm going to have you jump in, because I want to, lead off with the premises of the show.
Okay.
And one of the things they looked at was marriage rates.
Okay.
And the Indian community has a higher marriage rate than any other community in the country. And we have the lowest marriage rate than any other community in the country. And it wasn't always that way. It was not always that way with the marriage rates and the household income rates at all. But now we're looking at, in my opinion, we're looking at in the next 20 years, because we're not having as many kids anymore. We're not getting married. There's going to be another group that's going to come in and move to number five. Now we're at number six. And at that point, we're looking almost at, I don't want to say a complete annihilation, but there's definitely a red flag, state of emergency that we need to figure out. Okay, where are we going with this? Why are we constantly lagging behind? And thank you, DB, for coming in. We're constantly lagging behind. So here's the question, and I'll pose it and you guys can run with it, is how can we be trendsetters, but at the same time, we can't make money, or as they say, off the trend. I'll say it that way. How can we lead everything in the negative numbers, but anything in the positive number, we struggle? Whereas, i.e., education, understanding finances, and myself included, especially with the finances. So, how do we go from being a community that built everything on our own, and then we assimilate it to the rest of the country, and the rest of the country is leaving us behind? You know, and I will sit back and listen to you two guys give me your opinion on it.
Okay. DB, I don't know if you want to go first. You want me to go first?
Well, first of all, let me say good afternoon to you gentlemen. Appreciate you doing this live feed, Theo. Can you hear me?
Yes, you did.
I didn't know if Theo heard me or not, huh?
Yeah, I heard you. I had muted myself.
Okay.
You know me.
Okay.
You know how I like to get to talking. So I'm saying, you know what? When I'm done, I'm muting myself. So I'm not over talking to anybody. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. And I appreciate everybody in the chat for stopping in for this conversation that I think we definitely need to have this conversation. It's well overdue. So I definitely appreciate you for doing this. And I'm sorry, man, I didn't catch the beginning of what you said, so I probably should let Mr. Crosby go first, and then I'll kind of piggyback. I kind of came in right at your tail end there. So I'm a mute up, and I'll let Crosby kick it off, and I'll pick it up from there.
Okay. Well, we got a lot of factors, right, that we have to deal with as a community. And so to talk about like the marriage thing, we have a lot of how can I say it? Like I want to say
right now.
We have a lot of
On my way.
excuse me just for 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so what we the problem with us, what I see, right, and just as far as like studying history and everything from our arrival here in America, is that like we as far as marriage is concerned, I'll do the marriage thing first, right? So like we have bad relationships with getting along with each other due to our captivity, and it's just us being on the plantation, right? So you got to figure like we was prisoners of war for about 400 years, and they have the Civil War and all that types of things, and after Civil War they just told us you're free to go. So none of our so them people, right, you just gotta imagine like what they was going through, being worked to death, being abused, raped, murdered, killed, et cetera, right? So those people on them plantations, they were never ever rehabilitated. They was just let out into society. So when that happens, right, what you have is you have people that's damaged people, and they just passing that down generation to the next generation to the next generation, right? So I think that's like like we was saying, somebody was saying earlier, it's like taboo to talk about these things, but so the problem not gonna get fixed until somebody steps up and start asking questions and having conversations and stuff like that. So yeah, we suffer even to this day, right? Just a lot of damage from just being on plantations and stuff like that. We have a lot of, and this is a term that I use, is plantation behavior. It's all learned behavior, and that goes from marriage to the finances to everything else, and so this system is set up by design, and and we just get indoctrinated into all of these different things, and we really don't know if we coming or going, and integration as far as economics, that's another big problem. I honor MLK and everything he stood for and all of that, but he actually, I think he had the wrong strategy, because before integration, Black people had their own homes, they had their own land, they had their own businesses,
Oh, yeah.
their own money. We had Black Wall Street, we had all of this types of stuff, right? And then you have the people in the dominant society, they say, well, hold on, because they didn't want to integrate until they figured out we make more money off the integration. Because see, they still practice racism, white supremacy with the integration, I should say. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So that's where the financial thing come from. The relationship problems with the man and woman, they created the welfare system and kicked the man out the house. And so, we just got a whole lot of issues that go unaddressed. And that's why the problems, they remain, because it's taboo. Nobody want to talk about and address. But, if the problem don't get addressed, it'll never get fixed. So, that's my perspective on, some of what you was saying in the beginning there. I don't know, DB, what you think about that, or if you want to add to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of that is true. And some, like, we could go on and on about the different things. But I think when we have these sort of conversations, it's almost like we're looking for somebody to help us with this, but
Right.
help's not going to come from the outside.
Right.
Help where this changes is going to start in your house, in my house. Like, this is what we have to, first of all, teach ourselves to do better, particularly when it comes to relationships, especially if you're having a family, you understand? And that's how you teach. You have to teach that from what you have to teach that to your offsprings. Like, that's where it has to start. You know what I'm saying? So we can't go outside of this and expect somebody else to fix this. Because what was done, but and we can't go back in time. So we got to move forward. So we know what's plaguing us. So now we have to come with the solutions. How do we fix that? How do you fix? What are some of the problems that's going on in your household? That's going in my household? We have to start right there. Like, I don't need to go across the street and try to fix somebody else's house when my roof is leaking. I got to handle that first. You understand?
Correct. And that's something. Go ahead.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's going to start right there. That's the most important thing. And then once you and me and whoever, we get ourselves together, and then we start branching out in our families, to our nieces and nephews and cousins and so forth and so on. You know what I mean? And that's building community, because that's how it's going to work. Because without community, you got nothing. So we can't say, I got mine, you got to go get yours, because I got mine. I got my nice house, I got my nice car. You got to figure it out. Instead of when we get into a position to help people, whether it's through a job, nepotism and things like that, that's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Teach people a skill set. If you got a skill set, we're supposed to teach that skill set to somebody that don't have that skill set.
Right. Agree.
Instead of just telling them, yo, go figure it out. At home with our kids, when our kids start, graduating high school, we can't tell them go get a job just like that. No, we have to teach them something. We have to keep them in our homes as long as we can, nurture them up. So when they leave the house, they leave in the house with a skill set. They're not leaving the house and now they're fending for themselves. They in scramble mode. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's just my opinion. Go ahead, Theo.
Yeah. And I agree with that 100%. Right. I agree with that. Because I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for me. And I'm not in the business of blaming other people that don't look like me. I'm not in the business of blaming other people who come into an area and run a business that don't look like me, right? And granted, there is a lot going against us from people that don't look like me. But we have to start to realize that a lot of the problems that we are really seeing, they are coming from within the house, within the community, right? So it becomes, how do we solve that problem? As the brother said, he spoke of MLK. And there are a lot of people, and they're older people around the 60, they will tell you, hey, MLK was the best thing since sliced bread. But the guys who and girls who are 50 and under will say, well, MLK was good, but he did a little more damage than he did to help, right? And I get it, the notion of we're no longer spending our dollar in our community. We took the money and put it in somebody else's community. And the dollar's not coming back to us, right? I agree with that wholeheartedly, no doubt about it. But here's the reality. We know that, and we still take our dollar and put it in another community that's not benefiting us, right? So if we say we should support Black businesses, right? No problem. I'm with you. But we can't go to a Black business and tell them what they should charge us when we're not willing to tell another business what they should charge us, right? We see that there's a saying of Black people just like being disrespected, right? And there's videos online, no matter what social platform you're on, you can see where there's Black women who are being disrespected, and they will complain just to go back to be disrespected. We see some of our rappers who will go to the store. I'm spending $200,000 and you're going to treat me like this. Well, if you're spending $200,000 and you're still getting treated like that, and you come back to spend another $200,000, knowing they treated you the way you got treated, then you like being disrespected. At the end of the day, you don't want to be welcomed with an open arm and be respected. You want to be disrespected, because I'm very simple when it comes to my money. If you tell me you don't want me there spending my money, I'm not going to spend my money. Plain and simple. I'm not going to argue with you about giving you my hard-earned money, right? So we have to look at it that way, right? The crabs in the barrel mentality, we talk about that all the time, and we're looking at it the wrong way. Maybe these crabs are actually pulling the family out of the barrel. Instead of you trying to keep the one that's coming up, they could be pulling them out. So we as a community, we have to start looking at things a little bit different. Yes, we are very innovative. We understand that. We're very smart people. We understand that. We're very caring people. We understand that. Now, how do we translate that and put that to work for us? See, that's the question that it seems that no one wants to sit down and talk about. And when they do, guess what? They get vilified, right? We attack our own. We will spend day in and day out watching people telling you that Black men don't want to be married to Black women, and Black women don't want Black men. Now, how does a community survive when you've got the male and the female constantly going against each other? I don't have to agree with everything that a female says, and she don't have to agree with everything that I say. But we have to have a common structure in our community where we still have to come together.
Real quick here,
Go ahead.
Theo. Crosby, you're muted, just so you know. I see you trying to talk. Yeah. Just wanted to let him know
I
that.
I got you on mute. I got you because I want to do a rant and then let him come back. So I muted him for a minute. And so we have to have some kind of recognition within the family structure, right? Because every community that's thriving, they have a strong family structure. That's one of the things that I think we're missing. Like I said, we can invent anything, right? I would go back to my father, and he didn't have the same education that I have, but he was more inventive than I was. He can invent an innovation, anything. He can make it work, right? So we know we have that capability. How do we translate that on the education side? How do we translate that on the finance side? And how do we translate that also in our own home? Because a group of people that's not producing, and the men are constantly being targeted. The men are going to jail, and I get it. Not everybody that's going to jail is guilty, so I'm not going to play that game. But at the same time, we understand there is a target. So we have to sit back and say, you know what? Either we're going to get it together, or we're just not going to exist. We should be thankful or grateful. I'm going to say thankful. I'm always grateful when I see a brother riding around in a nice car. I'm like, man, glad he's got the car he wants. I'm not gonna hate on him if he gets a nice house. I'm happy for him. I can't hate on any of my brothers or my sisters. I can only be happy for them. But there is a segment or a way of thinking in the community where we get jealous. We start to, oh, he ain't all that or she ain't all that. They think they got this and they think they got that. At the end of the day, I cannot spend either one of you guys' money that y'all make. I can't spend it. So by me not being able to spend your money, why would I even show any discourse against you guys? Right? I'm going to talk to you and ask you, how did you get it? So I can try to move forward and bring my family and move forward. Right? We understand that at the same time, it's been proven here recently that blacks have gotten into the stock market at a rapid pace over the last 2 years, which that's a good thing. We're moving more into the finances, but even there, we're still behind. So it begs the question: how do we catch up, and are we going to catch up?
DB, you want to go in on that?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, you know me, I'm chopping at the bit, man. I just get
Okay, go
so
ahead.
upset with Theo. I get so upset with Theo because he gets so long-winded, man. And I'm just, and I don't want to cut him off, but man, just can we get in there, man? Damn it, Theo, we want to get in there, man. You're going too long, man. And then,
I
and
apologize for that.
because I get old and I've got so many things I want to touch on, but you go on such long
Yeah.
diatribes, man. I forget what the heck you said, man. I like so many issues I want to attack.
And I'm
But
getting old too, so if I don't run on like a run-on sentence, now I done forgot.
yeah. But
Okay, I'm gonna mute up, let you talk, brother.
so let me just say this, because like I'm a solution-based guy, right? I always like to try to get to the solution of the problem. We're very good at recognizing the problem. I think all of us here recognize what's going on in the black community, right? We got that. We can't go back to the MLK days. We can't do any of that. We can't go back. We have to be forward people. You understand? So now we know what the problem is. Now you have to, like I said, you have to come up with the solution in your house. It's got to start there, because when you come up with the solution in your house, then we can get somewhere. So my solution is teaching my kids, particularly about investing. Okay. Because investing in the stock market ain't no color on that. Don't nobody know what color I am when I'm buying different stocks and ETFs and things like that. You understand? We wasn't taught that. And there's a reason why they don't teach that in school, but we're here to teach that. And hopefully you're here to teach that to your kids. And I'm a teacher. I've been teaching it to my kids. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to start right there in your house, because they're not going to get that lesson in school. You understand? They have these smartphones in their hands all day. Be smart about it. Get off of that stuff that don't make sense. You got to be conscious of your time and conscious of the content you're consuming, because that's going to, you know, develop your thoughts, cultivate your thoughts. So you want to be consuming good stuff. You understand? So starting with finance, because of course, I think you talked about that earlier, that we're last. So let's stop being last. Let's be first. We know we can spend some money. Hell, I think we're leading the country in spending money. Like, we know how to do that. So let's pump the brakes and take a little bit of that money that we just spending into things that depreciate, and start putting that into things that appreciate. You understand? I.e., the stock market. And I understand a lot of people don't like the stock market, and I totally get it. But I guarantee you, the majority of the people that don't like it is just because they don't understand it. Because everything that we've been consuming is traded on the stock market. We spend billions of dollars on stuff like that. So why don't you get a piece of that? Why don't you own a piece of that Nike? So, hell, we coming up to the holidays, okay? For anybody that's celebrating Christmas, start right there. So if you're going to buy your kid a bicycle, if you're going to buy him a pair of Air Jordans, why don't you go get him a stock in Nike? Why don't you do that along with the Air Jordans? You understand? It's just changing your mind.
Correct. Now I put a post up there, DB, from one of the commenters, Miss Shape World, glad she's in. And either one of y'all can address this. I'm gonna mute my brother, unmute him. So either one of y'all can
I'll
address
mute up
it.
too. Crosby, do you want to get that?
Yeah, hold on. Let me. Yeah, can somebody read it? Because I can't see it.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know.
the young lady put in the comment, black men don't believe in marriage. She's one of those, I guess, green pill women. You know, they hate the black men and all that kind of stuff. Black men don't want to get married. What's your take when a woman says that black men don't believe in marriage?
I think that's a lot of propaganda, because I've been with my wife since like 1990, 91. We hooked up in high school, and we've been together ever since, you know. And a lot of my friends are married, and they've been married for a very long time. So I think that's just a lot of propaganda that media puts out. You know what I mean?
And
That's just my take on it.
And let me piggyback on what Crosby said, because I know I've mentioned that before. See, that's Crosby reality. And you know what? Me and him actually have the same reality, because I've been married for a very long time, and just about every male, right, in my immediate family has been married for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm with my father-in-law right now. We right, and he's been, how long you been married?
30 years.
Over 30 years. You know?
So there you go. So you got three guys there that's been married for a very long time. So when people have comments like that, I honestly don't subscribe to that, because I'm trying to subscribe to something that's taking me somewhere. Taking me forward. I don't want to subscribe to something that's taking me back.
Right.
So I actually don't have time to entertain that.
Right.
Facts. And now, and here's the thing, Crosby, you've been married 33 years. That's a blessing and congratulations, right? The problem is the people who are in the age range of 28 to 39 are the ones who have got into this mentality of they don't believe in marriage. So I'm wondering, is the questioning they didn't see that growing up? Because it's on both sides of the spectrum, male and female. You know, maybe that's something that they just didn't see growing up, and they feel that that's just not an achievable goal.
Right. Yeah, it's a possibility. And then, you know, with this younger generation, they got a lot of ratchetness going on. They got a lot of ratchetness in the younger generation culture going on, you know, the Nicki Minaj's and Cardi B's and all of that types of stuff. And, you know, so that plays a factor in it too. You know what I mean?
Oh, I definitely agree. I mean, listen, I think it's safe to say that every generation had their ratchetness, right?
Right.
I know my generation had it. My mom's generation had it, but it seemed like once you went inside the house, it became about the family. You know, the ratchetness didn't transfer over from the street to in the house, and now this is the norm.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's where it is, and I get you. It's a lot of propaganda, because we see that not to get married is promoted more than to get married. We see that to just have a baby but not have a father in the baby's life is promoted more than, okay, I want to at least have a man in his life, right, or her life. Whether we're in the same household or not, we want to make sure that the kids understand that there is a mother and there's a father and they have roles. We just don't live together.
Let me interject. So when you're saying promoting, right, but see, who's doing the promotion on, you know, you don't need to be married and you know what I'm saying?
That part.
See, that's part of the system. That's the dominant society.
That part.
That's the liberals. You got to look at who sent you. You know what I mean? Because if you look at Obama, you look at Biden administration, you look at Kamala, you know, they push for all of that LGBT and this transgender, all of this pronoun. See, we didn't have that growing up, and I'm 50. You know what I'm saying? So you got to ask that question: who's promoting all of this ratchetness? You know. So you got that's what I like to do. I like to kind of like go under the surface and look at the root on where the problem's coming from. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Well,
Correct.
well,
And I'm with you.
And this is why I said what I said. This is why I don't entertain that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
trying to move forward. I can't
Right.
keep worrying about all that. See, all that's distraction, man. So we're going to continue to be distracted.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna be honest here. For the most part, when you look at the condition of our people, you know, because we love entertainment. You know what I mean? And that's just the reality of it, you know? We love to be entertained. We look at the entertainers for political and as political leaders and community leaders and all that. And the first thing I tell somebody, you know, Jay-Z is not a politician.
Hell no.
You know, just think about this now. This is very serious what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
When you look at the dominant society, their entertainers are not their leaders.
Nope.
But for us, it's the other way around. The athletes, you know.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
Now you said, now they're not my leaders, right? And it's like you said, like they do what they do. That's what they do. They ain't lead. They ain't never led me. I wasn't raised that kind of way.
Right. No, yeah, I got you. Yeah. Yeah.
So I understand that a lot of people, they're being influenced by these people. I get that.
Right.
It's really the only thing that I can do about that is to take care of what's in front of me.
Right.
So I have to be the example for my kids and my grandkids.
Right.
You understand? Just like my mother and father was an example for me. I didn't have to look outside of that. Like, of course, we grew up seeing rappers and all that. And of course, we wanted to be like Run DMC and Kumo D and all that. We wanted to do all that. You understand? But we still have Pops at home, though, that drove a truck. Pop didn't dance. He didn't rap. He drove a truck.
Right.
Guess what? I'm driving a truck.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? That's that was my reality every day. So we got to make that our kids' reality. Get your sons, get your daughters, and get them up under you.
Right. Yep. I agree with that totally. But you know, back in our day, we didn't have social media and all of that stuff either, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a major issue. So that's why you got to get them tighter to you. Right.
That's a true statement.
Can't be quick to put them out of the house. You got to keep them close, man.
Yeah. And you know, I wanted to bring social media in. I'm going to backtrack to it, right? And DB's hitting on a lot of cylinders, like both of you guys are, right? But I have to agree with him with this. I'm not going to give that kind of stuff value, right? Alternative lifestyles. I'm not going to give it that value because that's not my lifestyle, right? And I get it. It's being pushed. You know, it's being pushed out there for years and years now. But what we have to realize, that's been around since biblical days. There's no doubt about that. That's always been there. The problem is, I get it. It's becoming more and more socially accepted. But as men, you know, men, we are the leaders in the Black community. We are the leaders in our house. We have to lead. We have to stop allowing what goes on outside of the house determine what goes on inside the house. I think that's where the Black community is dropping the ball, right? I remember, it's a great story. My daughter was maybe 3 and her cousin, they're the same age. And there was a song playing and her little cousin, she's just dropping it. And my daughter, she started, I said, oh, no, you're not doing that, right? So her cousin's mother says, hey, you know, they're just kids. And I said, nah, they're kids, but I'm not going to have my kid doing certain things. That's an adult dance. Now, fast forward, they're the same age. Here's the key difference to all of that. My daughter has no kids. This young lady has 3 kids already, 3 kids, right? And I didn't preach the lifestyle of the streets, the lifestyle of social media in the household. Neither did my parents. So when you look at it from that perspective, hey T Hill, thanks for coming in, brother. You look at it from that perspective, we have to sit back and say all this stuff that we think that's interfering in the way we need to move as a community. Well, it's interfering because we're letting it. As a man, you have to control your household. Now, I always say you can't control what goes on when your kid walk out that house. That's just a fact. But when they're in that house, you control the household. And there are and always will react to the way that you react in that household. So if you're negative in the household, guess what? The child's going to be negative. If you're positive, the child's going to be positive. If the child grows up seeing the dad goes to work every day, he's coming home tired, 9 times out of 10, that son is going to be the same way at the end of the day. And I'll mute up and I'll let you guys take a give me a little thickness on it.
Oh yeah, I agree.
You gonna get it, T Hill?
Yeah, I definitely agree. But like, you know, we gotta. So like, as times change, right? As a people, we have to change too with the times, you know. So like, you know, back in our day, you know, they didn't have social media. They didn't have, because like, and I'm not trying to beat up on nobody's lifestyle or whatnot, but like, I didn't see transgender stuff as a kid, you know, and it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like in modern times, like what's going on, I mean, it's like you can't like not see it because it's everywhere, you know? So yeah, and I just think like what DB was saying, yeah, you got to keep these kids close to you, and you got to raise them up, and you got to raise them up with some morals and be able to stand on some principles, and you know that way they know how to maneuver, you know, with the times. You know what I mean? Am I making sense when I say that?
Oh yeah, definitely. You got to be able to maneuver them, but it starts from everything starts from home. I mean, let's just be honest, right? The way we are today, us 3 that are on here, and I know DB coming back. The way we are, it starts from home. No other place, no other where. It starts from home, right? And we all can preach about what we don't like, and I like to focus on what I do like, not what I don't like, right? Because I can control more what I do like versus what I don't like. Because 9 times out of 10, what I don't like is not in my house, and I focus on that. Now, and for his transgender, they've always been there. It just hasn't been because social media, because of 24-hour TV, 7 days a week, it's being put out there more and more, right? But it's always been there. It's nothing new under the sun. You know, that's always been there. But at the end of the day, we see that problem, and now we just got to understand this problem can't come in my household. You know, the old way of thinking from a biblical perspective, you know, you love the sinner, but you hate the sin, right? And we have to always walk in that perspective, no matter how hard it is, but we have to look at it that way. Because if we started getting aggression because we don't agree with alternative lifestyle, then we often become what we don't like. We hate something, and that hate becomes part of us. So to me, on that aspect, I agree with you. It is ruining the country. When it comes to leaders, you bring up Jay-Z. I will admit, Jay-Z is not a leader. The problem is when it comes to the Black community, they always put an athlete or a musician as a Black leader, right? They prompt them up, right? So people would talk about Jay-Z, and I'm using that name. They would talk about him, but they won't talk about William Reverend Barber. This guy's still doing the poor people's campaign. He's still out there shaking and baking. Every community you can find a leader, but they're not sexy, if I can use that terminology. You know, they're not sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where the bigger problem is. You know, how do we get past this notion of who's a leader, who's not a leader? You know, because I can't make a rapper a leader. Now, we see what's going on in the entertainment business with all these rappers and different stuff is going on, and they're pushing this to get us to talk about it, and we just continue to talk about it. But we could talk about that, but we don't know there's a local election going on right down the street, you know, that has more effect on you than what a rapper has going on in his personal life. But it's pushed to us, and you like you said in the beginning, entertainment, right? We love to be entertained. I think it's been proven during slavery, after slavery, Jim Crow, civil rights era, up to now. We love being entertained. I'm not knocking the entertainment. I'm knocking is you have to understand and turn off certain kinds of entertainment, because if you don't give it enough attention, that entertainment will go away, right? So you're at 50. I'm gonna say this and I'll gracefully let you speak on it. You're 50. So that means when you would listen to rap growing up, depending on where you lived at, your area, you know, majority of it was the Big Daddy Kanes, the Kool G Rap. We all remember the Sugar Hill Gang, right? All those groups we remember, right? But when they changed the narrative on what can be said and what should be said from a financial point of view, it pushed that out the way. And now what we have now is the new norm. You see? So I think we got to start tackling everything from inside the house first, right? We got to just start wanting to learn more. You know, let's not put emphasis on who is dating somebody. I'm not going to put emphasis on the black man don't want a black woman or the black woman don't want a black man. That's just too much negativity, right? Because there's plenty of people. My aunt and uncle has been married over 73 years. So when people say, oh, the black household, they don't want to be married, what are you talking about? My parents today have been married 53 years. You see? So, but people rather not talk about that. They rather talk about what to me is low-hanging fruit. Black men don't want black women and black women don't want black men. And it's being pushed for a reason, because it changes the psyche. If you hear something enough, you're going to believe it. You're going to think that's the reality of the world we're living in, when it's not the reality, right? Here's a fun fact that anybody can look this up, and then I'll give you the floor. When it comes to single parent households, black fathers are more involved with their kids than white fathers. But if you listen to what's being played out on the airways, you think that all black fathers are absentee fathers. You know, so that's something that we got to start looking at and being honest with ourselves. And I'll let you run with it once you get done with your directions there. All right, brother. I'll let you run with it. What's your take on all that?
You want me or DB?
I need a dog.
Okay, yeah, I agree with what you said. Yeah, so like, can you hear me? Am I good?
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with what you said. Yeah. First, it starts in the home, most definitely. You know, and so yeah, that's what we have to do. We got to get back to basics, like as far as educating ourselves, right? And you know, then we have to have like standards, you know, and that's one thing I think is missing in the community too, is nobody's holding nobody else accountable. You know what I'm saying? And I think that'll probably fix a lot of things too. You know, you see something that ain't right, you call it out. Because a lot of times people, like I have conversations with people and people will do something or they'll say something and they don't even realize that they out of pocket until you pull a coat to it. You know what I mean? And then it's, oh, my bad, and this and that and this and that. So yeah, so that's what we have to do. We got to, you know, educate ourselves and, you know, set standards, you know. and call out all the BS. And I think that'll eliminate like a lot of our issues too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, but and the reality is you can only reach one person at a time, right?
Right.
So if you can only reach one at a time, you got to grab that one and hold on to that one person and give them all that information so they kind of start looking at things from a different perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you're going to be able to move, as they used to say, Rakim back in the day, move the crowd. That's how you're going to be able to move the crowd. You know, it's one person at a time, because you're up against a huge machine, right? And
Right.
this huge machine is propaganda and marketing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and we
Yes.
know that that is a big problem. So we got to attack it one at a time. So for the men who are fathers, whether you're in a household or not, I don't care, you need to be very much involved with those kids at all times, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to agree with the mother. That
Mm-hmm.
ship is sailed and passed, but you got to be involved with the kids, right? And we got to
Mm-hmm.
understand that as men, what we didn't get taught, we have to teach ours, right? I know me and DB, we talk about this all the time. And when it comes to finances and investing, right? And we would both say, hey man, we wasn't taught this at a young age, right? And because we wasn't taught this as a young age, we now become Johnny come lately. But at the same time, we can still teach our own kids, we can still teach the younger ones how to get going early in life. You know, the sooner you give somebody the information, the better they're able to take that information, digest it, and use it without a shadow of a doubt. So it's always best to reach these kids when they're at a young age, right? And once we start doing that, then we can see the shift. But until that, we're just going to be looking at the same old situation where it's like, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? And nobody knows, right? And for us, the whole thing of, I get it with the trans and the way they pump that out there. I totally understand that. And a lot of that's done through social media, but it's done for a reason. And when you understand the reason, now you have to sit down with your little ones and explain to them why they're doing this, right? Why are they pushing certain things in the Black community, right? You go to any upper echelons community, you won't see too many liquor stores. You won't see 20% sell off on Newports, right? You won't see this kind of stuff. And even as a smoker, I need to stop smoking. But these are the things you won't see, right? But what you will see in these communities are things that are uplifting the community. You will see grocery stores that have good food inside of it, fruits and vegetables that we all need, especially growing up. You're going to see that. So we got to start demanding that we have these same things in our community. You know, when we start demanding, we do get what we want. The problem is we ask every other ethnic group to come in and demand it with us, and we get lost in the fray. That's the biggest issue I think that we're having, especially when you look at coming from the 60s and the 70s, all these movements that we were participating in. Some we started, some we don't. 9 times out of 10, they didn't benefit us the way the movement was supposed to benefit us, right? So now we can't fall for the old banana in the tailpipe. Oh man, I got this white guy, this white woman, and they're helping me out. You know, look, we can't do that. That is more damaging than anything. If we're gonna move as a unit, we have to move as a unit, and we got to sit down, because you can ask most people, what do you think the issues are in most Black communities? And they will run down a gauntlet of everything. Then you say, hey, what do you think we need to do? Well, now there's nothing. Silence. You see what I'm saying? It's now silent. And at that point, it's like, okay, now what? Now what? Now you just stood on your soapbox, you're yelling, but when it's time to get off the soapbox and do something, nobody wants to do anything. And I'm not saying you have to spend millions of dollars to do it. You know, I do certain things within my community. You know, every year, at the beginning of the year, I buy school clothes for kids. And when the wintertime starts, I buy winter clothes. I do that to try to help out. I partner with a guy that owns a deli, and we take donations throughout the month. Because what we do when these kids that go to the cancer research, it's a lot of money for the parents to be paying for parking. And a lot of them don't have the money for parking. So we said, you know what, let's try to raise money so we can have money for parking. So that when they're sitting there for 3 to 4 weeks at a time, that's and if you go to any parking garage, $15 a day, that money adds up, right? So there's things that we can do right here and now that can make a difference. Right. And that's where we got to start looking at it. But I think the most important thing is information and education. You know, the great late Joe Madison always used to say that education is the new currency. And he's right. Education is the new currency, but information is power. You see? So we got to get the information out to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, right? And we got to let people know, hey, there are a lot of Black-owned products that are sold in Walmart, Target, so on and so on, right? But we don't know that. And we would say, man, I would buy Black products if I know they're there. You're not doing the research to find it. Or your social media is not taking you there. The algorithm doesn't take you to this kind of stuff. So, you know, and that was my spin on it. If you want to jump in there for a minute.
Yeah, I think you know, practicing group economics, that's very you know, that's very important. Because when you look at all these other groups, they come over here and they do it, you know. Because I was having a conversation like this with somebody not too long ago. If you look at the Asian Americans, right? You see the Asian Americans primarily when they go out to eat and they invest and they spending money, they going into Asian restaurants. You don't see Asian people in the Italians eating pizza and you know, all over here and all over there and stuff like that. They spend their money amongst themselves. You know what I mean? And they're not the only group that do it. So, you know, we have to education. We have to educate, right? We have to practice group economics, right? And you know, and we have to have standards. And I think if we knock them top 3 things out right there, then, you know, we'll be on the road to recovery. You know what I mean? But a lot of people, they don't, you know, I had an idea, and I'm going maybe back about 10 years ago. And I said, because, you know, like one of my teachers, Professor James Small, he said that Black America is the 13th wealthiest nation in the world. We spend $3 trillion a year, right? And we don't have nothing to show for it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We need to be making that. We consumers. That's pretty much what we are. We consumers. We consume everything. We don't make cars. We don't make cell phones. We don't make TVs. We don't make computers. We don't make, you know, toilet paper, deodorant, none of that stuff. So when we go out and spend our money, that's what we're doing. We giving everybody else our wealth, you know?
And if I can add to that, right?
Yeah.
John Hope Bryant made a great statement. He says, only thing we produce is sweat. Meaning we produce things for everybody else and all we get is sweat out of the deal. We're producing sweat, right? And there's no money in sweat. You know what I mean? There's just no money in sweat at all. So when we sit back and we start to think, and I agree with you, you know, we got to start producing. But when you look at all these other communities, they spend money within that community, or they spend money within themselves, right? So when the pizza shop up the street, literally, is closing down after 80 years, and one of the things they talked about was the community held them up. You know, they're just getting older, they're tired of doing it, but the community always came in and held them up. And every ethnic group does that. And we were doing that for a certain period of time. There was a
Official
time where
integration. Right.
there you go. There you go. And integration has pros, it has cons, right? But the main thing with integrations, what people don't understand was they integrated only because they didn't want to give the money out or disperse it equally within the communities, right? So
Mhm.
if I live in Meriden, and if we're in the 60s, there is a line. There's the black side of Meriden, there's the white side of Meriden. Well, listen, we need both sides equally to get the money for their school system. You know, both sides equally to get the money for the road repair, and so on and so on and so on. Well, they rather say, no, you know what, we'll do it this way. We'll integrate, and that allow you to bring your money over here. But it keeps your money coming over here, because if we've got all the shops, all the little trinkets that you love to buy, we got stores that sell it, then at that point you're taking your money over there. You know, now I would never say you shouldn't spend your money at this store. Now, if they mistreated you, you shouldn't. But what I will say, if there is a store and the owner is in the community, he looks like the community, you should be shopping with that store, you know,
Right.
because we spent, and like you used the number 3 trillion, we spend so much of our money making everybody else rich that we're cash poor to a certain degree. And
Mhm.
I get it. And that's the whole thing about understanding finances. Like I said, and I'm still learning. I'm not going to stand on my soapbox and say I know everything about that. I will never do that. But I'm still learning about it, right? And that's one of the things I think at the most we drop the ball at as a Black community. And we're trying to catch up. But the problem is there's so many other groups who have already passed us that we would have never thought that the Hispanics in this country has surpassed us in medium household income. The
Mhm.
Asians have surpassed us. The Indians have surpassed. This is nothing against those people, nothing against them, but we're
Right.
dead
Well,
last. You know,
yeah, let me build on that real quick, right? So like I noticed like when we moved down here to Tennessee, there's a big Laos Thai community here, and there's also a big South American community here. And what these people do, right? They just practice group economics. So you will have like 3, sometimes maybe 4 families living in one house, everybody working, and they splitting the bills. You see what I'm saying? And when they do that, you know, everybody driving Mercedes, everybody driving BMW and all of this stuff, because they practicing damn group economics, and that's how they're able to get ahead. We don't do that as a people, you know? So, you know, they put their money together, you know, and you know, so yeah, we just yeah, 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 it's a lot of yeah, I don't know, because I just got a lot of things going on. My mind is moving like at 100 miles a minute right now because there's so much I want to say. But yeah, I noticed that when I come down here, these other groups, that's what they do. They practice group economics, and that's the way they get ahead. Because you figure, just say you got 4 families and you got a $2,000 a month house note, right? What is that, like $500 from each family kicking in on that? You see what I'm saying? And see, when you do that, then you can save money, you can bank money. They send money back home and all types of stuff. So yeah, that's how they, yeah, we have a lot of, this is my opinion, a lot of individualism going on, you know? I got it that, you know, you get yours. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we really just don't work together like we used to. And I think like that integration, I think that played like a major part of it, you know? And stuff like that. So yeah, we just have to like study other groups and look at how they move and then, you know, adjust accordingly. You know what I mean?
correct.
Because until
Well,
that happens,
even
we gonna stay behind the 8 ball.
yeah, and here's the thing. Well, I'll be cautioned with studying other groups, right? To a certain degree, and I'll tell you why. Uh, there are certain groups that their history is nothing but violence, and we
Right.
adapted that part of that group's history, right? So if somebody say, what's the blueprint for the Black community moving forward, 2025? All you have to do is just research how we went from slavery to
Mm-hmm.
owning cities. We built from slavery to building our cities. You went from 1865 not being able to read to 15 years later, you're in Congress. To 15 years later, you're becoming now the educated class. To 15 years later, you are the standard labor class, right? So it's not like we have to study a different group. It's just that we have to go back to what works. Even in these 1900s, and I use a lot of dates, and I know it's not sexy, but even from the 1900s to 1940s, there was such push for education. There was a gentleman in St. Louis, and he wanted to open an all-black school, right? And just basically teach black kids. They wouldn't let him do it. He put the school on a riverboat because he understood the importance of education. You know, W.E.B. Du Bois was the same way. He understood the importance of education. So they pushed education out there for us versus sambo, you know, somebody dancing, tap dancing. I can't stand nobody tap dancing. So they pushed that narrative versus that, right? And people saw that it was successful. You know, Dr. Clark Anderson, who's still living, I would tell anybody to follow him. He was one who talked about during the Montgomery bus boycott, how in North Carolina, they had their own black bus transportation, 500 buses. But once we went into the Montgomery bus boycott, and that took us from no longer owning a black bus company to riding everybody else's bus, and we still got treated like crap. You see what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
the blueprint is there. The
Mm-hmm.
money is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's changing the mindset
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day and understanding what's in your community, who's representing your community. I think it's so important that sometimes we miss the mark on who's representing our community. What are they doing for the community? You know, this notion, okay, well, he's black, I'm going to go vote for him. Well, we can't use that. We got to put somebody in there. If we're voting black only, we better put somebody in there who's going to do the right thing. If I don't care if they're pink, we need to make sure we're getting somebody in there who's going to give us an even playing field in the community, maneuvering and working throughout the community. You know, and I don't think that's hard to ask for. You know, and
Right.
and I'll let you have next to the last word, brother. We're about to shut it down in a little bit. So, anything you want to say, go ahead, and I'll let you rant on about it.
Well, no, I'm pretty much, I think I know next time we have a conversation like this, I'll be prepared because I'm just like going off the top of the head right now and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely should like do this again and just like have specific questions, to where everybody a chance to actually search and address, you know what I mean, issues. And I just, oh, my bad. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I think, I really don't have too much more to add on to what you were saying. You know what I mean? I think, we need to have more conversations like these as a community, and put our people first. And, I don't know. Next time we have a conversation or we do this again, maybe we can have specific questions, and then that way everybody have time to research, and then we come up with our answers, and then we present them on a podcast like this, and and stuff.
Correct.
That way it's more like uniform, all over the place with the information. You know what I mean?
Correct.
But yeah, I appreciate this build. I appreciate you having us on here.
No problem, brother. And like I said, I will be doing this again and again and again because I got to get all my stuff set up right again. And We're
Okay.
gonna do more of this. You know, like I said, I get it. This is not for everybody. Everybody's not gonna
Right.
want to hear it. But if it reaches one person, hey, I'm happy than the pig and
Mhm.
slop, right? Not gonna complain.
Right.
So we will be doing
Right.
it again, my brother. And we're gonna leave out of here with the intro.